Welcome to the Bikerumor Friday Yard Sale. I'm Tyler, and with me as always,
I'm Watts.
what are we drinking today, Watts?
I'm drinking Dale's, as always, and you're drinking Hop Gun from Funky Buddha.
Right. Same one I had last week. Where is Funky Booty? Where's that brewery?
In Florida.
Oh yeah? What part?
Yes.
Yes. Speaking of Florida, did you go? You were going to make a road trip?
I'm going probably tomorrow. I'm going to take off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right
And
on.
just get a sunburn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I've
get my
almost
head
got one.
right.
I certainly tried. I was out in Arizona for the past couple of days doing some bike packing with REI, which I went ahead and took the liberty of recording some interviews with people out there, and
Good.
kind of like made our work pretty easy today. We just get to sit around and drink because we're going to cut to an interview in a second with Nick Legan, who wrote the book Gravel Cyclist, which has a lot about gravel rides, racing, and bike packing.
I've heard of it.
And because originally the plan for this weekend was for you and I to kind of rant about stuff, and gravel was high on that list.
I got so many rants.
Yeah, I know. And so we're going to push that off because I think that's going to be a really fun episode. But we are going to talk a little bit about Watts' idea of gravel and his love-hate relationship with it. Some of the reasons. We'll touch on it.
Okay,
We'll skim the surface. And
Okay.
then so the reason I was in Arizona was with REI they wanted to show off some of their new co-op bikes, some more adventure-ready bikes, along with some of the lightweight camping gear that they do. And it's kind of cool in that they're combining all that stuff. But let's start off with the interview with Nick Legan about his book. Nick, you have written a book recently called Gravel Cycling.
Yeah.
With a long and awkward subtitle.
The subtitle is The Complete Guide to Gravel Racing and Adventure Bikepacking.
So it's gravel racing. So is the premise of the book more about for somebody who wants to get into gravel cycling in general, or get into racing or bikepacking, or like equal parts all of that?
Yeah, I hope it's a lot of things. It's certainly a cheat sheet for people wanting to do some races, and I have a long list of races in North America and actually worldwide. And I talk to a lot of past participants or racers, so it gives them kind of a leg up on what they might need for gearing, tires, the bike of choice, things like that. But it's also just a way to learn about how to go explore some gravel roads near you. So even if you're non-competitive, and some of the events in the book are non-competitive as well, because the beauty of gravel is that you don't have to be a racer to do gravel. You know, there's a lot of gravel out in the world, and if racing is your thing, we want to be approachable. I wanted the book to be approachable for them, but I certainly don't think that racing is the only way to experience them.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, I barely race other than a couple cross races, and but I find, if you count my riding split, it's about half mountain, half road, and of that road, I'd say 80% of it is just going and screwing around, riding whatever I can find.
Totally,
and to me, when people say gravel, that's what it is. It's this just, you see something cool, I'm just going to turn down there. Maybe it's paved, maybe it's not, right? But
and I think gravel is a really generic term. I mean, where I actually live in Colorado, we don't have a ton of gravel. We have dirt roads, if you really want to get into it. But gravel to me is just riding road, pavement, dirt road, gravel, maybe even some mountain bike trails. And it's just mixing it all together. And to me, that's part of the fun.
Okay, so somebody who maybe right now they've got a road bike, but they like this idea of, this all-road gravel, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
What are, what do they need to look for in a bike, or what are some things to consider, different things they would need to do when they're used to being a pure roadie or a pure mountain biker?
That's a good question. If you already have a road bike that'll fit 28s, I would say stick with the bike you have for one. Figure out if you even like gravel riding. The one thing I would say is make those 28Cs pretty puncture resistant, because no one likes a flat tire. And I'm a big fan of running mountain bike pedals and shoes on that bike, because it just means that if you get into something that's a little nasty, you can walk through it at the very least. I'm at the point where I just ride mountain bike shoes and pedals all the time. I don't really bother with road shoes and pedals. I think that's a great way to think about it. It's like gravel cycling also doesn't need to be expensive. If you have a bike, go ride your bike and then figure out if you need more tire or not. Because in some areas, a 28's fine. So figuring it out from there and just see what you're into,
Yeah, cool. And the cross bike can make a great kind of
awesome
intermediary until you figure it out. So, what I've noticed though, the difference between cross and gravel, and this was one of the questions we got a lot of Bikerumor when, gravel first came out. It's well, what's the difference, right?
Sure.
To me, it's gravel bikes have a little bit lower BB, a little bit slacker geometry so that it's a little more stable, whereas with the cross bike, you want
kind of like that snappier handling and stuff. But you know, so if somebody's looking for pure on, they're going to go buy a gravel bike. Like, what should they look for?
Appropriate tire clearance is I think first and foremost. I mean, for some people, depending on where you live, this is not a blanket statement, but for some people, a gravel tire is a 29 by 2-inch tire. And for other people, it's a 28 mil tire, or it's a 40 mil. I think where most gravel bikes have landed, and where I start to consider a bike a gravel bike, is if it has clearance for 40 millimeter tires. Though. Yeah. I think that's a great starting point, and I don't think you're going to have much trouble if you go with that as a general rule.
And there's a lot of tire availability.
There's a ton of tires now, and that's changed significantly in the last even 3 years. So there's great tire options there. I think low gearing is really important. The thing to consider if you're a roadie. You know, if you're on a paved climb, you can get out of the saddle anytime you want. Gravel, not so much. If you get out of the saddle on something really steep, you could lose traction. So lower gearing is nice because you can sit and just kind of spin your way up to that top of that climb. Disc brakes, I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah.
They really free up opportunities for mud clearance, for bigger tires, things like that. So I do think disc brakes are a good way to go. Otherwise, though, it's up to each person to find. It depends on where you're coming from too, right? Like I ride mountain and road, but I'm definitely a roadie as a background. So I love water bottles. It's why I'm drinking wine out of a water bottle.
We forgot to mention that. Canned wine. What was it? A 24-ounce can of wine.
Sold only in Arizona. It's like a local brewery. It's great. Vineyard. But like I prefer to have water bottles on my bike. And if you're coming from a mountain bike background, you might prefer to just run a Camelback. Things like that kind of play into it too, you know. And what's cool is I find that, you know, if you think about a Venn diagram of cycling, gravel becomes the overlap between, I think, all the cool people in road and all the cool people in mountain bike getting together and having a really good time. And I think that's the most important thing to think about with gravel is just go have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, it's just like along those lines. Is gravel the new hipster?
I don't care. I mean, if hipsters want to do it, please come do it. But if you're a nerd or you don't have a lot of self-confidence or you're an egomaniac, just come ride gravel. Like what I really like about it is that when I go to races, for instance, I'm not at the front and I'm not at the back. But when I've had bad days where I was at the back or mechanicals, it's almost some of the most fun I've had, and it's some of the most inspirational people I've seen in the gravel world are those who are out like they don't care. They don't have a power meter. They're not watching their calories. They're not worried about their heart rate. They're out there just challenging themselves physically and mentally. And that to me that's a beautiful common ground, you know?
Yeah.
So,
cool. Other than Grindura, what are, and Dirty Kansas, obviously.
Sure.
What are 2 or 3 other events that people should look at, whether they want to just race or just have a great time? Like, what's a good, fun event?
Well, I mean, you can look at it for next year, but I just 2 weeks ago rode Land Run 100 in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Had a great time. I saw so many amazing people. I mean, I start to think of them as like a gravel family because you end up sharing some miles with these people and you don't see them again until the next gravel event. But it's like, dude, what's going on, you know? And so you have these cool catch-ups. But what Bobby Wintle, Crystal Wintle are doing in Stillwater is really, really special. That's a really cool event. We were blessed with really good weather this year.
What state? Sorry.
Oklahoma.
Okay.
Sorry, Oklahoma.
Just so people who know.
There are a lot of good events, though. I'm trying to think of other ones. I mean, Crusher and the Tusher is one that I haven't gotten to myself in Beaver, Utah, but Burke Swindlehurst put that on, and that's got to top the list, where some of these Midwestern ones are not flat. They have a lot of rolling. Crusher and the Tusher is a climber's delight. Like, it is straight up and straight down. That's a really good one. Barry Roubaix in Michigan is the largest gravel event in North America, and it's a very it's shorter distances and huge participation. So they're all over the place. You know, there's a lot of really good ones. JP's Gravel Pursuit in Idaho is in September, October, and that's a killer one. It's in West Yellowstone. And I love any event that encourages you to carry bear spray. That's a good thing.
But how are you allowed to ride off? I guess if you're on gravel roads, though, because Yellowstone's a national park, and typically you're not allowed to ride.
You're not in the national park. You're on the edges of it, kind of thing. Last year was awesome. It rained. It was like 40 degrees, and everyone just gutted it out. But
awesome.
Hey, it's Type 2 fun, right? It's to talk about it after the fact is really, really fun.
Yeah.
But Jay Peterberry and his wife Tracy put on a great event. So that's those are probably top of my list right now.
All right. So sell yourself for a second. Why should somebody go buy your book, Gravel Cycling?
Oh well, because it looks pretty on your coffee table.
True. It is. It's a really good looking book. Like,
yeah,
we were talking about that earlier.
If it helps, I didn't take any photos in it. I'm a writer. I'm a word guy, but we did a lot of work working with some really great photographers, and so it's really pretty. It's not a book that you read necessarily like start to finish, but it's something you can reference throughout the year when you had a question. There's a lot of how-to in there, which is really good, and it gives you kind of a leg up on gravel racing or bike packing. So check it out. It's $25. I mean, you can't afford not to. You know, $25 is not. I mean, what do we spend? You know, if we were buying these beers, we'd be halfway there. You know, so yeah. So check it out.
All right, check it out. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, man.
So have you seen that book yet?
I have seen it. I mean, it's been on the interwebs for a little bit, and I kind of want it. And just watching that interview with Nick, all of my sort of, I wouldn't say all of my bitterness, but he's
chipping away.
Positive. It's chipping away. Like that was a positive interview. I like what he's doing, and it made me feel good instead of jaded, bitter, and hollow inside.
Because why? I mean, you and I talked about it, but not on camera. Like, what is it about? Let's pick one of the aspects
of just, and it's
like,
not even
like gravel.
So, I love gravel riding. Like I mean, been doing all sorts of epic races for a long time, and honestly, the gravel component was always my favorite. Partly because I'm a sucky ass, like handler of technical stuff. But
suspension helps. I'm just going to put that out.
Yeah, but whatever. But yeah, my favorite parts were that, and every time I'm riding that, I'm like, I should just come out here with a bike and ride only this section on my cross bike and stuff. I mean, for years and years. So I'm glad to see that it's finally becoming a thing. But there is this trope in it of this bravery. And one of the lines I carry that I love has perpetuated it by, they used the word courage. And that just made me so mad, because the idea of people being courageous
by plunking down an entry fee.
By plunking down an entry fee and riding an expensive bike, it's just the most entitled shit I've ever heard. And if that's what it takes for me to sell gravel bikes to people, fuck that. That's where it comes from. No, but I mean, just I don't like that. And I say that, of course, with just, I love the sport. I do all kinds of events, and I love that kind of riding. I'm just keeping it in perspective, like Nick said, of just, it's just fun.
Yeah. It's more of a mindset. People say gravel, and like he was saying, the stuff we ride around here, half the time it's just dirt, or whatever, or connecting bits and pieces of everything.
Sand roads, whatever.
It's a mindset, right? Like gravel's more of a mindset than like a specific surface. And so you were talking about courage a while ago, and you had some pretty funny Instagram or Twitters or something. I'm going to put a little screenshots of those up. But
I was really trolling salsa.
we'll get to that. Hold on a second. But I think what the flip side of that courage is that, it's not courageous to pay to enter a race unless it's like you've never really ridden more than 20 or 30 miles and you're just going to see if you can do a 100-miler, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're going to see if you can do that, you might as well do it in a supported environment where there's people around to help if you need. But then the other side of it too is take the courage when you're out on a ride to just take that left or take that right. You've never been down that road before, see where that goes, and
for sure, getting lost is a huge part of it. I mean, and I love the idea of getting people who really have set limitations to themselves, getting out there and doing something they never thought they could do.
Yeah.
And then once they do it, they go, oh, I can do that. Let's move on to the next thing. But I think it also becomes this very self-absorbed kind of thing.
Yeah.
What
was
you can
supposed to be inclusive can almost feel exclusive to. If you're trying to get into it, some websites out there portray it as, like this holier than thou. Here's what you need to look like and act like if you want to be part of this.
Well, for sure, and I mean not just like the hipster trope, but I mean here's something nobody ever says, or nobody's like, yeah, I'm training for a road race, or yeah, I'm training for a mountain bike race. But they will. It used to be, yeah, I'm training for an Ironman, and now it's, yeah, I'm training for this gravel race. Just, I don't know, man.
So am I.
Yeah. you can do it. You can ride that far. You can. And then just go on and do something good.
Yeah.
That isn't selfish.
We're going to make a hard switch here to the interview with the REI guys. And what was cool about this 3-day bikepacking thing is that we actually like packed most of the stuff we needed. It was van supported, but it was kind of like a bikepacking light trip, which is a good way to sort of get into it, see what the bikes feel like with a lot of gear. So of course we're using REI camping gear and the REI co-op bikes, which are actually pretty fantastic. Like everybody out there was really, really surprised. There was a lot of editors. But then we had like bags from Ortlieb and Revelate and whatnot. And then of course all the food was really kind of like cooked for us and stuff, which was awesome. The point of it was for them to get feedback from a bunch of us on like how the equipment worked, and then for us to be able to have really like experience it in a pretty real world situation. And what I like about these things is that you typically have access to the brand managers, the product designers, the marketing people, if you can grill them. So I took the time to interview the creative director for the whole co-op brand, who also does a lot with the camping equipment. And so here's what he had to say about where they're going with bike packing at REI.
So we're out here in Arizona doing a few days of bike packing with REI, and with me is Ian Abura, who is the, you just told me, I already forgot, category manager, creative director for the co-op brand, which is the line of bikes that you guys launched a couple of years ago to kind of replace the Novara brand.
That's right.
And it has a real adventure focus.
Yeah.
And so as we've been riding around, you know, like the whole point of this trip was to sort of explore what these bikes are capable of for bike packing. And we were talking while we were riding about, you know, how bike packing is evolving and the gear and equipment that you need to bring, because we're testing. We've got like Ortlieb bags on. Some of you guys have the Revelate stuff, and then there's a few other things on people's bikes. But as REI, who makes everything, you guys have done a lot recently to kind of update the camping equipment and the sleeping pads and the bags. And you guys are sort of in a unique position that you can create products for every category. And so from a bikepacking standpoint, it seems really cool that you can sort of create like a bikepacking specific kit almost. And so like what are some of the plans? What are you guys working on with bikepacking, and where is this headed?
Well, like you mentioned, I think we've recreated the brand. We sunsetted Novara, so we took a 38-year-old bike brand and we really reset it. And we reached out to our members, and we got a lot of insights to sharing that basically Novara didn't really mean anything to our members. And so what we've done is we've reset the brand. It's now Co-op Cycles, and as you mentioned, we're steeped in outdoor expertise and backpacking specifically, so it's kind of a no-brainer now that we have the adventure cycles. We can really kit them out for bikepacking.
Right, and some of the stuff you guys are letting us test is the quarter dome, and then the flash
pad.
That pad, which is amazing. It's like literally takes like 10 seconds to blow up, and which is cool, and it's super light. Like the whole thing, I weighed everything before I came. I don't have to double check the weights, but like the whole stuff is pretty light.
Yeah.
And you can actually like cram the tent further down into its own thing and put the sleeping pad in there too.
Yeah.
So you can fit it into a really small package. But what you guys were thinking about is even trying to condense that more, or like package it so that it's more easily ready to go on the bike when you're ready to just bust out for an adventure.
Yeah, and that's really what this trip is about specifically, is we've taken our lightweight backpacking gear and we put it on the bikes. And I think what we're seeing coming out of the couple of days on the trail and on the gravel is there's a real opportunity for us to rethink and recalibrate how we build the gear so that it's bikepacking friendly versus just built for backpacking.
Yeah, one of the things that we noticed was like the tent poles, right? Like right now the tent poles are about this long.
Yeah.
And if they're that long, they could fit into more bike friendly cases and stuff.
Yeah.
What are some of the other feedback you're getting from everybody here?
Yeah, like I mean, I just unpacked my pad now and I could see that it's rubbed through. There's a hole in the pad, so I think it would be a no-brainer for us to beef up all of the packaging and the stuff sacks so that they are a little bit more rugged where they need to be, where the straps abrade throughout the day when you're on the bike and you're going through the gravel. Yeah,
especially out here with all the washboards, like everything's on the bike shaking and stuff. And mine did too. My tent case wore through a little bit. Fortunately, it didn't wear through like the rain flyer or the sleeping pad or anything. But yeah, definitely. Cool, man. So like, I'm curious, when you guys start looking at something like this, like the bikes came out a couple years ago, you know, the tents are fairly new, like an updated version of the quarter dome. And so when you start thinking, okay, like right now you're processing, like what are we going to do for bikepacking? What is the development timeline? You know, like if we're talking about it today and you go back to the office, how long before we see a finished product in REI stores?
It's typically around 2 years out. So for example, the bike team right now are in Asia working on development of their bikes. They're really putting 2020 to bed. And we're in the very early stages talking about what we want to do for 2021.
Wow.
So for the bikes, it's really far out.
Yeah. But the bikes, you've got like, so like that's metal, like that's a lot of stuff. Is it very different for tents when you have like fabrics and textiles?
It's
or is
a
it
little,
similar?
it's a little quicker, but even with the, even with all of the gear, we're talking about spring 20 now. And so we're in March of 18. So yeah, it's almost 2 years out.
Is that because it takes that long to develop a product, or do you have to build in that then like you've got to take time to show it to distributors and retailers? But you guys are your own retailer. Like there's nobody else selling REI stuff. So it seems like that would speed it up a little bit, right?
It does speed it up a little bit. There's the development window, but then there's also a fair amount of time that is built in for testing. So that's kind of, you know, that takes up a lot of the time because we can't have any failures when the stuff actually gets to the consumer.
Right.
So
we get to be your guinea pigs a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Like if you could have, you know, your tent, sleeping pad, and like basically your living quarters.
Create a
Fly
system.
trying to drink my margarita. You know, yeah, like a sleeping, living system, ready to go. You strap on the bike, and people can see, okay, here's this package that I have, right? Like, whether it's a seat bag, rack, pannier, whatever. Then it's pretty easy to figure out where else you can fit food and all this other stuff. So it makes it easier to, like what you guys said, your goal is to make adventure easy. And like, you just grab something from the garage, and boom, you're out on the trail and the bike, whatever it is.
I mean, if you think about it, we're uniquely positioned in that we can outfit you from head to toe. We can create the whole system holistically. There's really no one else out there that can do that because they're either focused on the bikes or the carry solutions or the camping gear, and we build it all. Yeah. So it's we're in a really great position to be able to do that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Have you gone bikepacking? Like full on, totally self-supported. What was the longest trip you've done?
I rode across the country.
When was that?
It was late 90s.
Right. Man, what
I'm sure I have a picture for you. I hope so. That was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's night and day. Late night. You're like, not to age ourselves, but we're talking, that's almost 30 years ago. 20 to 30 years ago when that was happening. Like, the gear nowadays is
so
night and day better.
Really, it was all jammed. Everything I had was jammed. I had racks jammed, panniers jammed, everything. Now, the game has changed.
Right.
Tremendously. Soft bags. I did it on a Univega Alpina.
Wow. Oh, I remember those. My friend had one of those, I mean, that was a good bike back in the day.
That was like a big purchase for me.
Sweet. Right on.
So, I've done a decent amount. I like that interview. I just got bogged down. I kept waiting for him to say, and one more time. And I lost count at a point.
Yeah, it's like when somebody goes,
or it's like people watching this, how many times I touch my face or do something like that.
Puppy coats when you're really animated.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
What I came away with impressed is not just the bikes are good, but like, was their attitude. Like, they really wanted to know what we thought and were really receptive to the feedback. And so, like, if you think about having a compartmentalized bikepacking kit with, like, think about a sleeping system, right? Like, say your seat pack is the sleeping system. And then the, one pannier is like your complete cooking and food system, right? Like, REI really has the ability to put together a complete system. So think of how easy that would be when you get to camp, wherever you're going to stop for the night. Boom, you're set up to cook. Sure. Boom, you're set up to sleep. Like, that's pretty compelling. And I think that's where anybody who's doing a real bike packing setup right now, like that's an opportunity, I think, because right now you're kind of like, as a consumer, you're picking and choosing what pieces you want to do and trying to figure it all out. And there's probably a way to make that way more accessible to people who aren't either going to geek out on every little piece of equipment,
Right.
or just don't have the time and energy to figure it out, man. Like, that's a stumbling block for a lot of people and a lot of things, is having the time and energy to figure it out from scratch. The easier you can make it for somebody, you know, like when you walk in here, you've got like, you know, nutrition, you've got like, you know, pre, post, during, you know, after, whatever.
Or even our
Yeah,
bike
like-
packing bikes. I mean, we've got them.
Yeah, you've got
totally
bags on
outfitted
them
to
to
show
show.
people how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have yet to host the clinic of how to pack for that kind of stuff. But
Which would be good, because one of
It
the
would.
things like I've learned, like, I mean, I was trying to get you to go in a couple years ago, and this was honestly my first bikepacking trip. Was one of the, it's just like the most simplest thing, right? Like, say you take that seat bag, and there's very few that have like an air release valve on it, right? So I was like trying to shove my sleeping bag into the seat pack, and it got to a point where it was like airtight at the bottom, but I could tell there was more room, and you just can't push it anymore unless there's a valve at the other end, right? So then I had to like unpack and like figure out, all right, well, where I'm going to put that somewhere else. And so
Right.
it's like how to pack the bags even, you know, and just thinking through like, all right, what are you going to use while you're on the bike, and which bags do you want those in? What needs to be accessible on the go versus when you're stopped? You know, how to weight the bike, right? Like, you really don't want a lot of weight on the front, but you don't really want it all on the back either, I don't think.
no.
So, yeah, you should host a clinic.
All right, we're going to do it.
Sweet.
I had one of those weeks. It's a hard week.
Why? What'd you do all week? I was gone. I didn't get to, like, see you.
Well, it was super depresso mode, but also it was one of those
Sorry, I don't know
weeks-
why I'm laughing at that.
It was one of those weeks in retail that just I felt bogged down. Like I had gone off on someone for not, like that everyone should support local shops and stuff like that.
Like, in person here at the shop or
It
online?
was just a friend, and I was just talking about like friends supporting a shop. And then I did not realize at the time that he had just bought something online, so I felt a little bad about that because he probably thought I was talking about him, and I didn't know that at the time. And then we actually ordered something for him, and the wrong fucking thing came in. So I just felt like it was one of those like, what am I even doing? What am I doing with my life? Kind of things. I feel good today because we've been super busy all day.
Yeah. It's a Friday. You got a good drinking crowd starting to filter
Yeah,
in.
you
It's
do.
like 4 o'clock. Yeah, I got here at the noisy time. That's why you hear a lot of people. Normally we record a little earlier, but I literally red-eyed home from Arizona last night, so I'm working on about 4 hours of sleep.
You should show pictures of my gravel bike
Ooh, yeah.
because I'm pretty proud of it.
And what are you doing?
Well, I'm just getting it ready. I mean, I'm going to take it down to Florida and go ride all the stuff in Gainesville. I might even hit up Jason.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, Filthy Mouth Jason.
Gravelcyclist.com.
Yeah, exactly. And
Does he have a filthy mouth?
dude, I love it. He's
He
just
doesn't
a
let it
filthy
fly
mouth
when I'm around
posse.
him.
Like he and I get along so great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's just every other word's an F-bomb.
Maybe I've just never noticed. It's that sweet
Oh,
Australian
maybe it's
accent.
just me.
It's like sugar-coated, you know?
He just talks that way with me. But and then I mean that'll be the bike for DK.
What frame is that? Because you had it custom painted by a local artist.
No, I painted that.
You did. I thought she
I painted
did.
that. No, that's me.
Oh,
That's my-
all right. What frame is it, and what did you do to it?
So that's my RLT.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I didn't know what the fuck's happening with Niner right now.
They're all good.
Yeah,
They just got a bunch
Sure,
more
they're fine.
money. Now they can do more stuff. Like
We'll see.
advertise
That
with
hasn't
Bikerumor,
always been
hopefully.
the case. I know nothing against them, but that bike fits me very well, and I just wanted to jazz it up. Squid Bikes has, they're sort of the distributor for that spray bike stuff, and I bought a bunch of that, and I wanted to play around with it. They have this slogan that's "No more boring bikes," and man, it's true. Bikes are so boring.
What
right
is
now.
it? So you bought a Squid Bikes kit?
I just bought some of the spray bike stuff that they're,
What is it? Just spray paint? Like
it's basically spray paint, but it's a particular kind that like sticks to a lot. Like you don't have to
you don't have
do
to
a ton
prime it
of
and
prep
sand
and
it?
everything like that. we'll see. And originally I was going to do this whole like zebra motif, and I realized that was a giant pain. So then I started just doodling on
I'm
it.
a little dorky.
With a
I think
Sharpie?
you'd get tired of the zebra motif.
Oh, I'm sure I would, but it was dorky. But at the same time, I was going to have anyway. It's what I could do. So anyway, I started doodling on it, sort of Keith Haring style.
Yeah, turned out super
And then-
good.
I got pretty obsessed with that. It's all with a Sharpie. We'll see how long that sticks.
How long did it take you? Because I mean, you covered the frame.
Not that long. I mean,
Really?
yeah. I was like watching a nature documentary and just kind of doodling on it when I did it. So 2 hours of drawing time, honestly,
Huh.
max.
And distracted. I'm surprised. Like if I were watching something on TV and trying to draw with like detail and precision for something that I had to live
Have
with
you
for a
seen
while.
it? It's not detail and precision. That's the whole beauty of like a Keith Haring kind of style motif. Is it's just I got a lot of dongs on there. I got a lot of like, yeah.
So why can you like clear coat it to keep
Oh,
the
I
Sharpie,
did
or do you think the
clear coat
Sharpie would still
But the
fade?
clear coat made the Sharpie run a little bit
Oh.
because it like wet it. You know, Sharpie does wash off. Honestly, I should have used a paint pen. So it might be a failed experiment.
All right. Well, I'm done with my beer.
I've been drinking all day. I was supposed to go exercise and it didn't happen, so I just started drinking.
I know I'm sitting around waiting for you to call. Hey, I'm back from my ride. Let's film.
I just never got out of here. It's fine.
Thanks for letting me know.
He would have given
All right.
Sorry.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers.
Hey guys, if you like this week's video, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel.